Great. So it's John Nostrand, and I have Pete Bohr on here, and Trav is recording the Zoom as well. So I know we have a mixture of 23s, 24s, and 25s on here, and probably a mix of parents and players. I see Coach Slade on here too, so that's great. So thanks for taking the time. We just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the recruiting process, and obviously for each grad class, it will be a little bit different. And I'll try to talk in general terms and then let Pete talk to you all about what he's done with our 22s. And then we'll just open it up for questions. The other thing that we will do a little bit later on in the fall is Coach Murphy from Penn has agreed to do a Zoom or maybe an in-person meeting, depending on how things go, to talk about the recruiting process as well. So he will probably try to fill in the blanks of some of the things maybe that we don't cover, or some maybe specific things a little bit later on, maybe mid-September. But first and foremost, for the 23s, right, September 1st has become a little bit like Christmas or a holiday. And with that comes a lot of excitement and also a lot of anxiety and a lot of sometimes disappointment. So September 1st is the first time that the 23s can be, technically communicated with and offered. But I just want everyone to know, especially the 23s, it's one day out of such a long process. So while I am sure some of our guys will be well taken care of or have a pretty good of an idea where they might want to go, a majority of our guys and a majority of kids in the country will have no idea. It won't be any clearer. There'll be schools that will reach out to you that you're excited about. There'll be schools that won't reach out to you that you'll be disappointed about. So again, just remember that it's just one day. And it's our job, along with hopefully high school coaches and our Mesa coaches, to help you kind of navigate, the journey. But the journey will be different for all of you. It'll be different by position. It will be different based on some of the things that are in your control, such as grades, physical size, needs of programs and things like that. So again, we're here to help you navigate that process. Some of the things that, you should be looking forward to this fall, you should be communicating with different schools. And again, I'm talking in general terms. So the 23s and 24s, I would say, it would behoove you to craft an email, get your transcripts kind of together a little bit, and be ready to correspond with some schools throughout the fall, letting them know what your fall schedule will be. Your fall schedule can be, kind of broken down into 3 different categories, I would think. Prospect days that are being held at specific schools that you may be interested in. And I think those prospect days will become more important than the showcase events that have become popular during COVID over the last 2 years. When these college campuses open up and they can get our guys or get kids on their campus and they can physically see them, that's what they're going to want to do. And there's different types of prospect days. And we can talk about that as well. The showcase events will still go on, and there's some great showcase events in the fall, and we'll do our best to get our guys in those showcase events. And if you know of events that you would like to go to, please email us or let your coaches know, and we will do our best to get guys in. That will be proactive, but there are also some things that we don't know about that you may know about. And then the last way is simply by playing with Mesa and by playing with your high school, you're going to go to team events. So you have prospect days, showcase events, and team events. And you're going to want to communicate with college coaches, especially the 23s, where you're going to be and what your schedule is going to be. 24s and 25s, a little bit more for the 24s, and not, maybe an introduction from the 25s. But I would say, we have plenty of time to go with those 25s. I'm probably forgetting some things, but I guess as you go through the process, and I'm going to turn it over to Pete, just understand right now what's happening, I think at Division III and Division I, as the rosters are very populated. So you have Division I schools and Division III schools that are maxed out with the roster size. And in some cases, these coaches don't know who's going to take that extra year. In Division III right now, the juniors and seniors, I guess actually the sophomores, juniors, and seniors all have an extra year. At the Division I level, I think it's just seniors and juniors. I'm not positive on that. I'll have to think about that. So again, the rosters are more full than they normally would be. So it makes the recruiting process a little bit more cumbersome and a little more challenging for all of us, but we've been dealing with it, for the last year or so. So it's kind of one of those things. It is what it is, but you should be going into this with your eyes wide open, looking at rosters, looking at roster sizes, knowing what you're going to have to compete with, if you get to a certain place, or if you even want to go to a certain place based on their roster size. But I'll turn it over to Pete right now. But for those of you that don't know Pete is has been a longtime Mesa coach. He's a AD and coach at St. Edmund's School down in Wilmington. He's worked with us for a long time. He's one of the best players ever to come through Haverford. And he's done a tremendous job of developing relationships with the college coaches. And a lot of that has come through his relationship with his 22 Mesa team that he's coached for a number of years. And he's going to jump in and help Tommy and a few other guys with our 23s. He'll also be able to get to know the 24s because they'll be, drilling and practicing a lot together. So I'll turn it over to Pete and let him just talk about what he's been able to do with his 22s and kind of what he may be looking for from the guys and from the parents.
I guess the first thing I'll say is the recruiting process. It's exciting, but it's also very complicated and stressful. Just going through the 22 group, we went into this summer with 17 uncommitted players. So it's going to be a slower process, just like John said, especially with the roster sizes in college lacrosse right now, with guys getting extra years and the amount of transfers that are going on. So if there's not a lot of action September 1st this fall, that is not the end of the world. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities out there in the future. The other thing we're just talking about, like your high school club showcases, college coaches really want to see you with your high school teams now that they're able to kind of watch that in person a little bit more and with your clubs before. But prospect days, if there's certain schools you really want to get seen by, they're very good. And then there's a million different events that you can go to. So there's a lot of options out there, and there's a lot of places to be seen, and kind of more than ever. Especially what I would recommend, especially the 23s right now, is they should all be making lists of what kind of school they want to look at, because lacrosse is great, but you want to make sure you find the right home first and then the lacrosse second. So if it's high academic, you want to go big school, just make sure you know what you're looking for as we get to that point. But yeah, I'm excited to work with all of these groups, and I started calling some of the 23 players, just kind of see what their interests are, and I'll get through that whole roster and make sure we go from there.
And I know Tommy's on here as well with the 23s. I don't know if there's any other coaches on here. But I would open it up for questions right now or comments. And I'm sure, again, there's some things that we're forgetting. Tommy, go ahead if you have some things to add. You're muted. Slater, you're on mute. Can you hear him, Pete?
Nah, I think his microphone might be just like volume down.
We're having technical difficulties, so we'll go back to Coach Slate when he figures out his microphone there. He can chime in as we go through. But I would open it up to questions right now from the boys or from the parents. And there's no such thing as a dumb question. And again, everyone's at a different phase. There you go, Slater. Go ahead, buddy.
So you said, Pete, 17 kids weren't committed going into the summer. What are your numbers like now? Just curious for the parents that are listening and the players, where you're at with the team.
So it's kind of like we were a bigger roster than most of the Mesa teams were. I think we have 27, so we have 21 committed so far. One is technically a 23, so he's waiting on September 1st as well. But it's a long process. We have 5 22s that they might go through the spring, and I'm sure John, Tom, you've seen this a ton. Some guys don't commit until the spring of their senior year. Some guys just kind of develop at different speeds. The amount of transferring you see now, especially in Division I, spots could open up for your year at the last second. So it's just something to be aware of.
And how many Division I, Division II, Division III guys do you have on those 21 commits?
So I think we're 17 Division I, 4 Division III with the 22s so far.
All right. Thank you. Just curious.
So we'll open it up for any questions from the guys or the parents, anything that you might have, again, as we approach September 1 or really just approach the fall and a new season, an opportunity to be seen. So there's a couple things, and I'm sure people maybe will chime in. Again, we're here to be resources for you. You're going to get inundated with emails from different coaches, perhaps, or different showcase events. So if you're not sure, and there's going to be times when you'll have conflicts, fellas, as players with other sports, or there may be other conflicts. So you may be agonizing over, well, if I miss this, is it going to be a big deal? Right? Or this thing is $750, but there's 2 other things that I can do on 2 different weekends that are $125 each. What's more valuable? All those things, all those questions, we're here for you, whether it's directly with your Mesa coach first, or, to Trav, Marker, myself, and Pete. It doesn't matter. We're a resource here for you. I will tell you also, depending on, your son's ability or guys that are on here, you want to be careful about what you go to, event wise, based on what your ability is and where you are from a physical development standpoint. Right. So there's time, younger guys, to be seen. And sometimes you only get one chance to make a first impression. So if you go to something and you're not quite ready to go, that can hurt you. Right. So going to too many events, I think, can hurt you too, especially if you're not 100% or if you're not healthy and you're not, clicking on all cylinders. So just be careful about overscheduling. And again, as Pete pointed out, try to find out what type of school, what type of program you see yourself at, right? The other thing is the guy that's recruiting you a lot of times might not be the same guy that coaches you, right? When they're recruiting you and they want you, they have, they're that hat on, and once they get you, they have another hat on. As being a new guy to the college coaching world right now, I'm drinking water from a fire hose, trying to figure everything out. At Washington College, I don't have one 2022 committed, not one. And I've lost a couple guys over the last couple days. I've lost a couple Mesa guys, which is a bummer. But at the end of the day, I don't know what I don't know. So maybe I'm just a dum-dum. So I'm not very stressed out. But the one thing that I do know is, because of COVID and because of roster sizes, I think it's more important for me to wait and take my time with my 22s. Because I think once I get into September, October, November, and I can see guys play, there's going to be a ton of guys that I think are Division I level type players that are not going to be able to find a home. And, I think I'll be able to swoop in and hopefully, grab some guys. But that's my situation at Washington College. I know there's some schools that are done with their 22s or have a ton of 22s. So everybody's different. But I just share that with you. Just, if you guys want to play in college, and families, if you want your son to play in college, there are more than enough opportunities out there. You just have to take your time and kind of navigate and try to find the right fit for you. I think the biggest challenge that families face and lacrosse players face is we all dream and we want to play at the highest level. And I think you should shoot for those type of schools, but you have to be realistic when you look and you say to yourself, well, I want to go to a big school. I want to go to a school that's got, big time football. Well, how many schools have that? Maybe 12. And of those 12 to 15 schools, how good do you have to be? Where do you have to be ranked at your position to be recruited by those schools? Right. And if it's important to you to go to a big school, and it's that or bust, then you got to look at maybe playing club lacrosse, high level club lacrosse that's really good, that'll allow you to go to a big school. That's another option that I think a lot of guys are finding and looking at as well. So there's a lot of things to consider for you personally, but I think the best advice that we could give you as coaches and mentors and teachers and some of us, parents, is try to stay in your lane and worry about what you can control. You can get in the weight room and you can get bigger, stronger, and faster. You can do a great job on your testing. You can do a great job in the classroom. You can do a great job of doing your due diligence and going on websites and looking at schools and looking at their different academic programs and places that you could study and see if you could see yourself in those places. See who's coaching at different schools and who the assistant coaches are. And when you're looking for that information, when you're going to try to communicate with these colleges, the best way to do that is find the athletics page on their website and go to the staff. Don't go to the lacrosse page specifically, go to staff, and then you can find the coach's contact information right there on those staff pages. A lot of times you cannot find that on the specific lacrosse pages. And then when you get to the point where you feel like you're going to communicate with certain programs and schools, you might want to make that email personal about a specific academic program that they have to offer that you're excited about, or something about that school that excites you, or the program. You can cite anything, go back to last year's schedule and a big game that team might have played in that you watched, or, try to make those emails personal. And I would encourage you also, fellas, to copy, the high school coach that you have and your club coach on there. And certainly you're more than welcome to copy myself, or Trav or Mark in there as well. Just let us know.
And just to piggyback off of that, college goes to get thousands of those emails from high school players every year. Like, it being personal really matters. I can send some templates that some of my guys have sent out, but it really, there's stuff you need to make sure you put in there. Talk about your academics, where you're going to be over the next year, where they can go and watch you. Because if they see the ones that look like they're just copy and pasted to a million different schools, they usually ignore them. So I can help out any of the guys with that. But it really is important that they are personal emails.
Any questions that we can answer for anyone?
Hey guys, it's Daryl Kurger. I got a quick question, if you could take it. And first, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. And second, just appreciate all you guys did for all the Mesa teams. I know a number of the teams had great seasons, so appreciate all you guys did. You guys do a great job, and it wasn't easy during COVID, so thank you.
Thanks, Daryl.
So look, I got two boys. One's a 25, and he literally just started high school this week. And he plays multiple sports, football being one of his sports, right? So he's really busy, but we are starting to get these emails about recruiting and the process and, et cetera. So and look, I'm not a lacrosse guy. That's why I really appreciate this call. How would you recommend a 25 sort of easing into this process? Because he doesn't, I think it's a little early, number one, which is I think what you guys are saying about the 25s. And number two, look, he's got to do well in school, and he plays football. So how should he think about just easing into this whole process? Is it maybe attending one or two prospect days in the spring? If he has a couple of schools he really thinks he loves, reaching out to them now, is it too early? How would you guys recommend, someone his age sort of easing into this, sort of put the toe in the water first, if you will?
I'll go first. The one thing, like you talked about, just doing well in school, the amount of options that open up with the more success you have in the classroom, the better. So kind of focus on there. I'd say as a 25, he should kind of start doing research, see what he wants out of a college. See maybe somebody's interested in to study, what kind of atmosphere, stuff like that, and then go from there. Because it is early for the 25s, but it's good to start preparing now, because it's 2 summers away from being really watched and recruited as much. I guess summer and a half. But it's good to kind of figure out what kind of school he's looking for, and that can change over time. But just keeping up with his academics, keep working on his game, and then kind of to see what would potentially be a good fit. So once he's going into his junior year of high school, he has a very good idea.
And so I would add to that, if it made sense, let's say you guys we were up at a certain tournament, or we were somewhere either in the fall or even in the summer, and there was a prospect day at a school that made sense when you guys were already up there, or you were going to be going away on vacation and there was, a couple schools that were going to be, if I was a parent of a younger player, that's how I would approach it. I would approach it very methodically and kind of laid back and make it be like a good experience, right? Hey, let's just check this out. We're here, right? Or you had mentioned that this is a school you might like to, they're doing a prospect day, let's do it. And guys that, the kids that are on here, what you guys have to realize is you want to kind of put yourself in situations. You don't want to put your parents in bankruptcy by going to too many things, but you want to go to a couple events when you're younger. So you can act and know that you belong at that event just like everybody else. All right. That was one thing that my father taught me in the 70s. You better act like you belong, right? And because you do belong. Because if you're doing everything that we're talking about and you're committing yourself to a program like Mesa, we already know that you care about lacrosse, right? Where that takes you, what doors that opens for you, what you do once you open those doors, it's going to be up to you guys. But I definitely would suggest, sticking your toe in the water, doing a little bit, in your younger years, and we can help guide you. But maybe a prospect day at a college, just so you can get a sense of what it's all about. And then you always have something to compare it to when someone else does something. So that's kind of for the younger guys. That's what I would do. And again, I think we can be a big help to you, and it's never a bother. It takes us 2 seconds. If you take an email and you forward it to us and say, hey, John, what do you think about this thing? Or I got these 2 things. Am I too young, or am I too late? Or can you make a recommendation? We'll be very honest with you. We'll be honest, if we think it's not the right time, right? But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it either. We're going to give you our honest assessment and opinion, but you might say, all right, well, I appreciate that, but we're going to be doing this anyway, or I can afford to do it, and I really want to do it. So there's nothing that you can really do that's terrible. The thing that I would just watch out for, again, is putting yourself in a situation where you might not be able to meet with success because of things that are out of your control, right? So those are things that we can help you navigate, as coaches. That's a good question.
Oh, that's good advice. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the thoughtfulness there. Thank you.
And we will have you guys all, especially the high school teams, you will be in events with Mesa that are going to be good recruiting events, but they're also going to be good events for the level of team that we have. And I would say, right back to the parents and the guys that are on here, especially these 3 teams, your loyalty, right, and your commitment to Mesa, especially, I think all 3 of the 23s, the 24s, and the 25s have gotten better every single year, right? So, and that's a tribute to the parents, your commitment to this program, and boys, to your commitment to the sport, right? And we're certainly glad your commitment to Mesa. But we feel like we have 3 good high school teams. You heard Pete mention we had 27 guys on that 2022 roster. And that's not a lot of guys when you think about, there's so many conflicts that come, in the summer and the fall, whether it's a high school team playing at the same time that the club team's playing. You got to play for your high school coach. You got to play for your high school program. We understand that, and we try to schedule around that, right? There's other sports that come into play. So, again, we'll help you navigate all that stuff, but we are, ecstatic about where we are with our Mesa teams in Philly, from our youth teams right on through the high school. We're really excited about the level of teaching and coaching that's going on, but the support that we get from all of you, is tremendous, and we appreciate that as well. We know there's a lot.
Hey, John. Hey,
Yep.
I hate to interrupt. This isn't a question, but look, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Keith Belson and his staff for what they've done with the 25s. So I agree with everything you just said.
Appreciate it. We've been lucky to keep those staffs together, and then to kind of add some things in there. And, again, Ronnie Garling, we lost, but he'll still be involved. From a Mesa perspective, we feel like we have great relationships with other clubs in the area. So we're going to be able to do friendlies and do different things and get these guys in front of different coaches. We're going to continue to ask coaches to come in and work, with our guys at practices. And those are also things that are changing, or things that have become available to different clubs, and again, we don't want to stretch you too much, boys or families, but, we're talking about doing like a training camp in the beginning of June where we could get different college coaches to come in and run some drills for these guys. So the landscape is always changing in club lacrosse, and we're just trying to keep our hand on the pulse of it and make sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of our families and the boys, in terms of putting them in front of the college coaches at the right times. Any other questions? Doesn't have to be necessarily about recruiting either. Could be about schedule or tournaments or anything that's on your mind. There's a really nice college, like 80 minutes from the main line area, with a lot of great hunting and fishing and water. It's about 1,200 students. We're hoping to get it to 1,500. It's called Washington College. So, and a guy like me, I got through that place with flying colors, from 82 to 86. So guys, you can do the work. All right. We can get you in some camo. We can get you shooting some geese and some ducks if you want to come down and do that. But we'll be wide open. We're going to flip the switch down there, get things going. So that's always an option for my Mesa families.
Last thing I'll say, especially for the 23 group for right now and kind of the 24s for next year, like those guys, feel free to call me. I started giving out my numbers to the 23s. Call me at any questions, anytime, especially once we get past September 1st for each graduation year. I'm usually pretty available. If I don't get back to you that day, like I'll be back to you within 24 hours. Just kind of keep me updated. I'll keep you guys updated as much as you guys need.
Anything else that anyone has? Any questions? All right, well, we will wrap it up because we know everybody's busy. Again, you may have questions with events and things coming up, in the next couple of weeks. So please shoot us an email or shoot us a text or a phone call. We look forward to kind of getting things rolling with you guys, probably the tail end of September, early October. Again, we also know that, more and more high schools are doing stuff, and, we're going to try to be as sensitive to those schedules as well. I guess we would ask of you as we kind of get closer to fall, pay attention to the schedule and to team snap, and try to get to as many practices as you can, because, that's just going to make us more successful. The more competitive our teams are and the more dialed in our three high school teams are, and the better you guys play in tournaments, it's just going to bode well for us in the recruiting process. So, just communicate with us if you can't make it. We know you can't make everything, but we're excited about, we're still working on a couple things for our fall lineup, but we feel really good about the tournaments that we're going to be in. And we look forward to, getting out and working with you guys. Looks like practices will be Sundays again in the fall. And again, the tournament schedule looks pretty good. If you haven't gotten your uniform sizes in, get those in as well, so we can get that stuff taken care of. Anything else? All right. Well, if you think of anything, shoot us an email. Again, appreciate all of your support with Mesa. We're looking forward to another great year. And if there's things that we can do better, let us know. We're always trying to grow and evolve, and we're here to support you. And we look forward to getting things rolling here in about another month or so. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, guys.